Hello. I'm making this video because finally, at long last, we're allowed to say Merry Christmas again. Also, Happy Holidays. Yes, I just want to take a little trip down memory lane with you all about some of my fondest memories as a child. Spending Passover with my friends. Kidding. Christmas with the Trumps. Um, actually, Christmas with the Trumps was not my favorite time as a child, but it did not lack for entertainment. Um, it actually didn't really start getting interesting in 1977, which is the first year Ivana, Donald's first wife, spent with us. We'll get to that in a second. But before that, the holidays were always very similar. And I mean Thanksgiving and Christmas. There was practically nothing to distinguish them beyond decorations, right? So they blurred together a lot. By the time I was 5, and I actually could remember these things, Christmas was indistinguishable from a Christmas I had when I was 11 or any point in between. The routine never ever varied. We all arrived at my grandparents' house at around the same time, around 1 o'clock. We went through the front door, um, which is the only time other than Thanksgiving we ever used the front door. We brought all of our packages with us because in my family, you had to give presents to everybody. So it wasn't enough for my mother, brother, and I to give one gift to each person. We had to give 3 gifts to each person. It was it got very complicated. And we would greet each other. The typical Trump family greeting was, if you're a man greeting a man, you shook hands. And if you're a woman greeting anybody, you shook hands and air kissed them. We were a very affectionate bunch. We invariably started off with a shrimp cocktail in the living room, another room that we only used twice a year. And then we would repair to the formal dining room for dinner, which again was a room we only used twice a year, Thanksgiving and Christmas. Dinners were also identical. Seriously, from the turkey to the mashed potatoes and the stuffing and the sweet potatoes and that really weird thing with melted marshmallows on it, exact same food, until my grandmother had the audacity to mix it up. And instead of giving us a traditional Thanksgiving dinner on Christmas, she decided to make roast beef, which, by the way, we were a family of carnivores. We loved roast beef. And for most of us anyway, the rarer, the better, right? If it were crawling across the table, that's how we liked our roast beef. And yet, when my grandmother came out with this dish she was clearly very proud of for being so innovative, everybody complained. Donald and Robert in particular. They were like, "Where's our turkey? How could you have Christmas without turkey?" And she literally, I sat next to my grandmother at the losers end of the table. So the whole meal, she just sat there with her hands in her lap and her head bowed, just deeply ashamed that she had failed to make another flippin' turkey. And just when you thought somebody would drop the subject, somebody would say, "Jesus, Mom, I can't believe you didn't make turkey." See, we were a fun bunch. But then 1977, Ivana came on the scene and mixed things up. Part of that was just because of how she and Donald arrived. They invariably pulled up to the house in either a very fancy, expensive sports car or a chauffeur-driven limousine that was larger than my grandfather's. And Donald would be wearing his expensive cashmere jacket and his 3-piece suit and the big ties, and Ivana had her furs and her fur hats, lots of makeup, lots of perfume, very big hair, um, you know, looking like the socialites they believe themselves to be, and making the rest of us look very conservative and unfashionable by comparison. So the very first year was memorable for that, but also because I mean, I have to be honest, I don't remember if before Ivana, Donald gave us presents, just like I don't remember if my Uncle Rob gave us presents before he was married because, men shouldn't have to do things as, effeminate as buy people presents for Christmas, I guess. But Ivana made it memorable in a way nobody had before. Like, typically my presents were clothes that didn't fit me, clothes that I would never wear. I honestly, I don't remember what they were. And then in 1977, I opened my very first present from Donald and Ivana, and it was a box of underwear. Yes, it was a 3-pack of underwear, retail $12, from Bloomingdale's. It was a very exciting moment. And it just kind of got weirder from there. The next year, I got a shoe, singular, a shoe. And I was sitting at the dining room table with this shoe in front of me. Um, and then I went to the Christmas tree and I started looking among the boxes to see if there was another shoe. But I realized there wasn't. So this was actually a gold lame shoe with a 4-inch heel stuffed with hard candy. And the hard candy and the shoe were wrapped in cellophane. So I had no idea where this could possibly have come from, and then it occurred to me at some point that it was probably the door prize or party favor from some luncheon she had attended, and she thought, "Yeah, why not give it to that kid?" Meaning me, her niece by marriage. So, anyway, I'm looking at the shoe, and Donald is walking from the kitchen through the dining room to where everybody else is by the tree, and he says, "What is that?" Forgetting, of course, that it was supposed to be or not even knowing actually that it was supposed to be from him. So I said, "It's your present to me." And he said, "Really?" I said, "Hey, Ivana, where did you get this?" And she just shrugged because she probably didn't know. It's like, "Wow, it's great." And for a minute, I thought, "Does he actually think it's a real gold?" Wouldn't that have that actually that would have been a good Christmas present. Um, that same year, my brother got a leather-bound journal, and I was actually a little jealous because it was really nice, right? Until we figured out that it wasn't a journal, it was a calendar year journal, and it was from 2 years earlier. So it wasn't even something that he could use. That's when we started our competition to see who could get the worst present or who got the worst present that particular year. Um, I think he might have won, the one with the outdated journal because I could actually even though I couldn't use the gold MS shoe, I'm not creative enough to figure out what to do with it. I could eat the hard candy, um, which don't I don't remember if I did or not, but, I could try. Um, the one thing though that we could not laugh about, because we recognize the absurdity. We were kids, we didn't care. It wasn't gonna ruin our lives if we got ridiculous presents from our uncle and his wife. You know, didn't matter. My mother, however, could not laugh off her presents, and neither could we. Um, Even though my parents had been divorced since I was 5, she was still not just invited to attend, Thanksgiving or Christmas, she was expected to attend these holidays. So, I it's never been clear to me why. I don't think they wanted her there anymore, she wanted to be there, but that's the way it was, appearances matter. Um, Sort of all that mattered. But anyway, appearances mattered. And, some of the things she got, just like with me, they were nice enough, I guess, but not particularly her taste. And as the years went on, it became clearer and clearer that my mother's gifts came from lesser stores. than the gifts my grandmother got for her son's wives. So, whereas, Ivana would get something from, Bonwit Teller, very fancy, department store. My mother would get stuff from, like, Macy's or, I can't remember what it's called, but another, like, a definitely lower end, um, brand. Not only that, like, the quality of the gifts was lesser of my mother's gifts, and, sometimes, like, she would go to return something and it had been bought on sale, so she couldn't even exchange it, and one year, I think this took the cake. She got a handbag, which was actually quite nice, but it had a used Kleenex in it, because, that was sort of Ivana's shtick. She liked regifting. A year after I got the Golame shoe, which I have to be honest, remains my favorite present that I ever got. I wish I still had it. I received a gift from Donald and Ivana or I should say Donald and Ivana's secretary, maybe, or the governess, I'm not really sure, the maid, that hit the trifecta. It was obviously a regift. It was useless to one degree or another, and, it was wrapped in cellophane. Ivana had this thing about cellophane. It was essentially a gift basket, and, it was I think there was a tin of sardines, box of table water crackers, some olives, maybe, salami. Then there was clearly something missing because at the bottom of the basket, where the tissue paper was, there was an indentation where something should have been, and it wasn't until much, much later that I realized that it was almost certainly a jar of a couple of ounces of caviar. So, I didn't think it was worth asking because seriously, why bother? But, I grabbed the basket and I walked over to where Ivana was just to thank her for her generosity, and, she said to me, "Is that yours?" And I thought she was referring to the basket, which again was the gift she had given me. So that kind of would have been funny if she admitted not knowing that. But it turns out she was pointing to a copy of Omni magazine, which was mine. Omni magazine came out sometime in the late 80s, mid 80s, and it was a sci fi fantasy magazine, which I was totally addicted to. I love this thing. I had brought it with me in the hopes that, sometime between the shrimp cocktail and the meal, I was going to have a chance to go somewhere and finish reading the latest edition. And she just, asked me if I liked it, and I said, "Yeah, I think it's my new favorite thing." And she said, "Oh, Bob, the publisher, is a friend of mine." And it was almost as if Isaac Asimov had walked into the room. I was very excited, and then she actually said, "I'll introduce you to him. We'll come into the city and we'll meet him." Ivana had, like, never or barely acknowledged my existence before this, and I actually think that that is the longest conversation she and I ever had, ever. And, she was around for a while, so sad commentary, but anyway, I was very excited by this, and who knows what would have happened if I hadn't told my dad about it, because when I told him, he kind of laughed. He sort of simultaneously laughed and blushed at the same time, and he's like, "Wait a minute, Bob Guccione?" It's like, "Yeah, Omni Magazine, it's the best thing ever." And then he explained to me, what other kinds of magazines Bob Guccione publishes, the main one being Penthouse, and, I realized in that moment that I didn't really wanna meet that guy anymore. So, my love for Omni Magazine survived, but, knowing that it was published by the publisher of Penthouse made me a little sad, I have to say. So, anyway, I'm pretty sure that I continued getting those kinds of presents, for the duration, but, when you get older, like, it just doesn't really matter that much anymore, and then, uh, I think it was only 1 year before the Christmas right after my dad died. So it wasn't something that I was going to be amused by or bothered by. And now here we are in 2024, and I am completely free of them. And I have some suggestions. So don't ever gift anybody regifts, especially if they're wrapped in cellophane. If you're going to buy somebody something that comes in pairs, like shoes or socks, give that person both of them. Or just don't give them anything and wish them a very, very Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays. Anyway, I hope that amuses you. I have to be honest. I'm not being completely honest here. I hated Christmas, but I loved getting those gifts because it was just really fun. And a reminder, like, we have to have a sense of humor about these things. So let's not take anything too seriously. And in the spirit of that, sincerely, I hope you all have the most wonderful Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, and I'll save Happy New Year for later because I'm sure I'll be seeing you before then. Anyway, best to all of you, and I will see you soon.